Hello everyone and welcome to Ukulele Underground University, Ukulele 102, week number 5, Harmonies. My name is Aldrin Guerrero and as per usual, joined by Mr. Aaron, the voice now commercial. Say what's up, Aaron.
What's up?
And Kahai, the legend for again. Say what's up, Kahai.
What's up?
So it is week number 5. That means we are halfway through Ukulele 102. We've learned a lot throughout these past weeks, but we're going to learn lots more. Okay, so let's take a look at what we did last week. So last week we went over chord families. So we learned how to create and use chord families. We also learned how to use chord families to break down common chord progressions. And we learned the difference between notes, scales, and keys. So we learned how to create chord families. We learned that, by using our major scale, if we put numbers on them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 8 for the same thing as 1. Each one of these notes gets assigned a chord that would sound good in that chord family. So 1, 4, and 5 are majors. So C, F, and G are majors in the key of C. And D minor, E minor, and A minor. So 2, 3, and 6 are minors, and 7 is a diminished. And we learned that if we play these chords in any combination, it's going to sound good because they are the chord family in that key. And speaking of keys, we also went over the difference between notes, scales, and keys. We learned that notes are, the pitch and the amount of time that you give when you play your ukulele. So each one of these is one note. So that pitch I'm holding for however long, and that's what the notes are. Scales are notes that sound good in sequence. So for example, so think do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That whole series or sequence is going to sound good, and that is a scale. What a key is, it basically tells us everything that we need to know about that song. The key will tell us what scale we can use, what chord family we can use, and what notes will sound good if we were to create a melody line. So that's what we learned last week. Very, very, very informative stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. Check it out after this video. So just kind of refresh your mind about chord families, all right? And by the way, how did you guys do on your chord families exercises? Did you guys do okay? Let's go over the first exercise, which is the C chord family. We just played 4 beats in every chord, and we just went up and down the C chord family. It goes like this. Ready? 1. Look at your handout. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, back to C, B diminished, let's go down, A minor, G, F, E minor, D minor, and C. And if you guys watch those play-alongs, I kind of go up and down. So just like a scale. Each one of those notes are going to be assigned a chord. Now you can take those exercises that we showed you folks on the handouts. And by the way, if you guys were wondering what handout is he talking about, where are these handouts, you can find them over on UU Plus. So if you check out ukuleleunderground.com, if you sign up for UU Plus, we have exercises just for all of you Ukulele Underground Plus subscribers. So you can download those and make sure that you check those out, try and play them and get to them as best as you can. It'll help you with the Ukulele 102 series. And if you haven't signed up for UU Plus, what are you waiting for? Sign up for UU Plus now to take your ukulele playing to the next level. Alright, so now that you're familiar with chord families, I want to take things up a notch just a little bit. And for week 5, our goals for this week are to understand and use harmonies to enhance melody lines. 2 is to enhance current melodies that we know. So for example, if I had a melody line like Mary Had a Little Lamb, I can play that here. Same thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a harmony to make it sound more full or to enhance that melody. So instead of sounding like, I'm going to use 2 notes that will sound good together. to make it sound more full. Instead of, it'll then sound like, or here. That's I missed it. Went one too much over. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be learning how to use those harmonies, and just like that, we used, we use harmony. So I use the harmony to play "Mary Had a Little Lamb" and enhance that melody line that I know. All right, so you guys want to learn how to do that? Let's get started. Any questions about last week or anything like that? Anyone? And once again, we are live, so we film this live. So if you guys are joining us live, there's a live chat. You guys can ask us any questions. There's also a live chat for all of those UU Plus subscribers as well. So make sure to take advantage of that. Ask away. And if there's something you don't understand, if there's something quite confusing, or you want me to go over it again, feel free to ask. And that way, everyone gets on the same page. All right? So first off, while I'm kind of waiting, what are harmonies? While I'm waiting for your questions. What are harmonies? Harmonies are notes that sound good when played together. Now, I know you guys have heard a similar sentence from me before, notes that sound good together. I refer to the scale as notes that sound good in sequence or sound good in a series or together. What the scale is, the difference between the scale and harmony is the word together. Notes that sound good when played together. So whereas a scale is a series of notes in a sequence, a harmony is more than one note. When played together, sounds good. So that's the scale in harmony. All right, next. Harmonies are notes that sound good when played at the same time. So just like I did, instead of playing one note, I played several notes and I played them at the same time. Well, I played two notes. Okay, and chords are three or more notes that sound good when played together. Those three notes are in harmony. So let's go back a little bit. Harmonies are notes that sound good when played at the same time. Now we can pick any two notes on our scale, and technically they will be, they should be notes that are okay. But when we play them together, sometimes those two notes are going to kind of, not really work in harmony. For example, just here. Let's take our last two notes, for example. If I play this note and this note, even though they're both in the same scale, when I play them together, is right here. Same note. But when I play that with this, it doesn't sound good together. So I'm going to show you folks how to get notes that will sound good together. So for example, another one, maybe this one and let's see. Or maybe this and this. There's a time and place for those two notes. There's also time and place for this. But for the most part, they're not really in harmony because they feel like they're fighting against each other. If we're looking at the word harmony, it means togetherness. When we play them together, it sounds good. So these two don't really work in harmony, whereas these two will sound good. And these two will sound good. This will sound good. Okay, and you might have heard the term harmony in a lot of vocal stuff as well. So if you think like Barbershop Quartet or Destiny's Child, if you guys remember Destiny's Child, when they sang together, they sang in harmony. Like maybe Beyonce will sing this note, and Kelly Rowland will sing this note, and the other one whose album I didn't get, so I don't remember her name, like Michelle. She'll sing this note. So in harmony, they'll be singing like this. So if Beyonce did, it could sound like moving together. Okay, so that's what you can do if you know how to play harmonies. All right, so it's not really necessary in order for you to play ukulele really well or to come up with good melodies. But if you want to come up with melodies that sound full and you might want to do something a little bit different. Instead of playing one note all the time, you can add harmonies to enhance that melody line, and that's what I mean by that. So if we take a look, once again, chords are 3 or more notes that sound good when played. Those 3 notes are in harmony. So we already know that when we play a C chord, all these notes will work together and it sounds good. When we play an F chord, when we play a G chord, anything in that chord family, A minor, D minor, E minor, even B diminished, will always sound good together. And that's what we call, they're in chords, all right? Those chords will sound good together, but how do we know which notes to pick? So I'm going to show that to you folks, and that's how you're going to learn how to create harmonies. Any questions so far? It's kind of to show you folks what it's about. Yes?
I wanted to point out too that you kind of, when you played the harmonies earlier, you played it using a scale too. Like you played harmonies to the scale. But they're not, harmonies aren't always played in sequence.
Yeah,
right?
in sequence. You can play them out of sequence, just like I did with the with Mary Had a Little Lamb. It's not necessarily a a scale. I got it. That's that. Now, how did I get that so fast? Keep watching and you'll know. Here we go. No questions so far?
No, just
a great audience today.
Yeah.
All right, so how do we create musical harmony? So I mentioned earlier that a C chord is 3 or more notes in harmony. Okay, and how do we get harmony? Let's just take a closer look at that. And before we move on a little bit further, there's going to be some music theory buffs. I love music theory. But the way that I learned this, or grasped the concept of harmony when I was first starting out, I would just kind of play the riffs that I could hear. Remember, I told you folks that I learned by ear. I'd kind of like listen to the radio, listen to some CDs, and figure out what those picking patterns were. And I noticed a lot of patterns. So when I was listening to Pure Heart, which is one of my favorite bands in the world. You guys might know their ukulele player. His name is Jake Shimabukuro. You guys have heard of Jake, right? That guy's going places.
He went on to some success afterwards.
Yeah, a little bit.
After Pure Heart.
A little bit of ukulele success. But, they had a...
It's like how Beyonce went on to
a little bit of
Michelle
success.
Who.
Yeah.
So, they had a song called Crazy Without You. And that song goes like this. Or the riff, anyway. And from there, it kind of began this this harmony obsession that I had after that. And I'm like, man, these notes sound good together. And then they had other songs like Olinda Road, which is a Hoppa cover. So I noticed that Jake was doing all these things, and how do you do that? So as a kid, I didn't really use music theory to define all these things and all these patterns that I was seeing. I just kind of saw the pattern, and I noticed that there were gaps and no gaps in between between these 2 notes. And with that, I kind of came up with a way to present these harmonies. So for all of you music theory buffs, I'm gonna use as little music theory as possible because I want everybody to kind of understand it. I want people to kind of to see what they're playing and see the pattern within those harmonies. All right, so forget about scale degrees, forget about semitones and tones. We're not going to be talking about that. We're not even going to be using those terms, but we're going to be looking at how the pattern looks. So it's more of a visual thing. We're kind of going to learn by what we play. Okay, so how do we create musical harmony? Let's play the C chord. What are the notes in our C chord? So if all of these are apparently in harmony together, we can take 2 notes and they will sound good together, right? When we play it together. So these 2 sounds pretty good. These 2, and then these 2. So if we take a look at the intervals between each note, so from G to C, and by interval, what that means, it is the space between the 2 notes, or the gap in between the 2 notes. Let's take a look at our handy dandy notes. So in the key of C, I'm gonna put my ukulele down for a second here. In the key of C, we have the notes or the sequence C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? And we figured that out by doing whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, which gives us C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay? Oh yeah, there you go, so you guys can see it a little bit more. So, the first one we have is G and C. So let's take, right here. It's G and C. I like to refer to this as the fifth harmony, or in fifths, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the gap. And what happens is this can actually move up and down, but the rule is if this moves up or down, then this has to also move up and down. So if I had a melody line of, say, C, D, E, D, so I will play C, D, E, D. That's my my melody line. I must then play G, A, B, A. Saw that movement. So C and G will be together. D and A will also be together. Why? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So C, D, E then becomes G. So every time I play C, I know I'm going to be playing G because that's the harmony. Okay? We found out that those two will sound good together. And harmonies are movable. So if I move up to the D, therefore I will play an A chord. I'm writing sideways, so it's going to look kind of weird. So it's going to be an A chord. So G, A, and E, so C, D, E, would be G, A, B. That means whenever I play E, I'm going to play B. And D, we already figured out that that's an A. So these are the notes I'm going to play together. C, G, D, A, E, B, and D, A.
It's in the middle.
Oh, I see. It's in the light. Sorry about that, guys. So C, G, D, A, E, B, D, A. Now, I know it's just like, oh, okay, I can see what you mean by that. But how does it look on our ukulele? So here it is. C, G. And then here's our A. And then here is our D. And then here is our B notes, which then, this is our E notes, so C, D, E, and this is G, A, B, so it'll be C, D, E, D, C. So that's the harmony, and those two notes will sound good together. Which then means that these two notes from C and G, D and A, and E and B and E will sound good together. That's called fifths, a harmony in fifths, because we're counting 5. Same thing here, we have a C and G here. Then we have an A and D here. We have a B and E here. So, and what I'm doing is I'm playing those two notes at the same time. I'm playing them together. It sounds good. Those are fifth harmonies. My favorite kind of harmony is called a third harmony. So let's take a look at the board once again. So we have C and E. Okay, so C and E. I'm gonna bring my board back here. So C and E, I'm gonna erase this, is a third harmony. So we have C, then we have E. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so C and E. Oh, C is the main melody line, so I'm going to put M. And here I'm going to put H for harmony. So if the melody line's in C, the harmony will be E. It's so Lepo looking. So C and E. So if I did C, D, E, D in thirds, so C, D, E, D, just like I did earlier. So C and E, if it goes up, it must also go up. If it goes down, it must also go down. Then it'll be E, F, G, F.
You kind of like shortcutted it then. You just like looked at where that first harmony is, and then you looked at the movement more.
And looked at the I looked at the movement. That's why it's all about patterns. So this is the pattern that that I noticed when I was a wee young lad and just experimenting on my ukulele and looking for different patterns. That's what I found. That if one moves, then the other one has to move. I mean, it can kind of stay and you'll still be technically playing notes from the scale, so it'll be correct. But if you want them to move in harmony, they have to move together. So now let's play this. C and E, D and F, E and G, and then back to D and F. So here it is. Let's play it on our ukulele. How does that look and sound on our ukulele? This is my favorite type of harmony, thirds. So C, we have our C string, and also we have our E string. This is off our C chord. So just to remind everyone how I'm getting those notes. A lot of you folks are like, how did he get those notes? I just broke down the C chord and I took 2 notes at a time. So these 2 notes is what we're looking at now. Okay, so these 2 notes, C and E, are in thirds harmony. So if I'm going to play D, if I'm going to move up 1, this is also going to move up 1, but then it's going to be in F. So it's a lot different from the 5th harmony where we're almost in line with the other notes. This, you're gonna have that. And then next up, if this moves up, so E and F, like how we said earlier, and then, E and G, and then D and F, and then E and C. Our melody line being C, D, E, D, C, and our harmony would be E, F, G, F, E. So together they sound like, and they are in harmony. And you can go all the way up the C scale using that formula. And that's how I got it so fast, because all I'm doing is, because I'm moving this up, I know that the notes on my C scale, on the E string, are E string open, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8. On my C string, it's 0, 2, so whole, half, whole. And then combine that with what I did on my E string. And then I can go all the way up. Okay, so this might sound a little bit much, or using your E and C strings all the way up might be a little bit much for you folks, and some of you guys like to use your A string. So if we were to use our A string from here, we can treat this as, so we don't have to go all the way up here. You can do, instead of the same notes. Alright, so let's take a look back at the board. What do we notice, and how many notes are in between C and E, E and G and C? We notice that between C and G there are 5, C and E there are 3. Now take a look at G and E now. So instead of G, C, C and E, let's take a look at one more. We have G and E. And just by pattern wise, if I'm gonna go up to the next step in the scale, the next step in the scale for my E string will be here, and my next step for the G string, C scale, will be up here, because I know so G, A, B, C will be E, F, G, A.
Could you play the main melody and then play the harmony, like just the harmony notes?
Yeah, no problem. So the notes that I'm playing G, so I'm moving up. G, A, B, C, B, A, G, G, A, B, C, B, A, G. I'm just going up and then down. So here's my first note. E, F, G, A, G, F, E. And if we play them together, and how do I know which notes, to play? If I went here, I'm not going to be playing this note because F sharp is not in the key of C. So I will know that it's an F natural. That's why I went there. And when I went here, I'm not going to play this note because that's not in our key. Remember, we're making ham sandwiches or ham and cheese sandwiches. We're not going to add extra whatever, to extra anchovies to our ham sandwich because it doesn't call for anchovies. So we're not going to play anchovies. So if remember I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I showed you, no, it was definitely last week. I showed you folks the ukulele fretboard you can print out from Ukulele Underground, and then we had you highlight all the notes that you can and don't have to play. I think Kahai has it right here. So this is a very, very handy dandy tool that lets you know what notes to play on the C scale. So once you do that, you're gonna be able to see all the patterns that that I'm talking about. So when you go here, they will always sound good. Okay. So how do we put that into our actual melody lines? So let's make up a melody line right now. Let's go. Let's in C. Let's do. So C, C, E, E, D, D, F, F. Okay. So I suggest trying to keep your melody line on on the string above that you want to do harmony to. So I'm doing E and C. Okay, just like how we learned earlier. Remember I said my favorite harmonies were thirds, and you can do that with the C and E strings. So if it goes C, C, E, E, D, D, F, F. So let's take a look at our board just so you guys can get a visual. So once again, I played C, C, E, E, D, D. That's F, 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 F. So those are the notes, and I'm gonna be doing it in thirds. So C, 1, 2, 3. So it'll be E. So every time that's gonna be, I'm gonna look at that kind of like as a reference. Whenever I play C, it's always going to be the E note. So therefore the next one is going to be an E. I don't have to do this again. Now D, 1, 2, 3 will be an F note. So every time I hit an E, I'm going to hit an F note.
D.
Oh, how's that? Oh, D, sorry, D. C, E. I'm going in.
Yeah.
So E. 1, 2, 3, there it is. G. So it's E and G. All right. And then, so this next one is going to be a G, D. Now let's erase this. 1, 2, 3. I did that earlier. It's going to be an F. And this is also going to be an F. So if I'm an F, 1, 2, 3 will be an A. So, the A is always going to look weird. So it goes C, C, E, E, D, D, F, F. Harmony will be E, E, G, G, F, F, A, A. So let's take a look at that. C, C, E, E, D, D, F, F. So if I'm an E, so E, E, G, G, F, F, A, A. Playing these notes together, will give us our our harmony line. So how does this how does this fare with if someone is doing a strum? So Aaron, can you strum a C chord for me, please? So Aaron's just gonna strum a regular C. And I can play that melody line. Why? Because it is in the key of C. I'm playing the C scale, right? And in harmony. And it'll be fine. I mean, I can even play the entire thing. And since I'm in the same key, it'll all work together. All right, any questions so far? I know it's kind of a lot. And imagine if I was using music theory and the terminology. It's going to be even more confusing for some people. But that's, I just wanted to show you folks the patterns that I saw. Questions? Nobody?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
So I guess there was some comment about if you just take any two notes from the chord, is it going to be harmonized?
That'll be in harmony because
Yeah.
all three notes sound good together, and the definition of harmony is two notes when played together sounding good. So therefore, in a C chord, that's why we use the C chord. These two, these two, these two, these two, these two will be in harmony. Yeah, or even these two. Well, that's the same note.
And then somebody was saying that they kind of just want to learn the pattern.
Yes,
So-
we're
so
gonna get to that. We're gonna
yeah.
get to the pattern But
Instead of thinking about the notes.
let's
just
We'll get to that. So
Okay.
no, I didn't want to drop the ball because I wanted to show you guys the why first, and then I'm gonna show you the shortcut. Okay, so before we get to the shortcut, which is right here. So,
Yeah.
how do we create musical harmony? B, C chord, continued. If you move up or down, the harmony must also move up or down. And we did just that. Harmony C, E, D, F, E, G, F, A, C, G, D, A, E, B, F, C, E, G, F, A, G, B, A, C, so on and so forth. Okay, we already went over all that stuff. And this is just kind of to show you folks what we did. All right, so this, using the E and A strings. So if we're using the E and A strings to create harmony, I showed you folks earlier, so that here, it will be there. Okay, I'm gonna try and see if I can do the G scale for you folks. So the G scale is going to be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And oh, let me erase this too. So here is a shortcut that everyone's been kind of waiting for. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. We got that from whole, half, whole, half. So here it is. Here's our G scale. Okay, so because of our G scale, let's take a look at the thirds, just the third harmony. So the thirds harmony in the G scale. So G, A, B, right? B. So G and B will be together. So if I just wrote out B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, that should be fine, right? B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and then A, B. That should be correct, right? Because if we're moving up, then it should also be moving up. So I moved up from B all the way up. So let's test this really quick. G, B, A, C, B, D, C, E, D, F sharp, E, G, F, A, F sharp, A, G, B. Here it is. So here's G, E string G. And like I mentioned earlier, I always like to keep my my melody line on the E, so that when I play the harmony, since the harmony is the third up, I have that string, the higher string, on the bottom to do that. So
you're playing a G note on the E string.
On the
just
E
to make
string,
it clear.
yeah. And then the B note on the A string. Because that string is higher, I want to put that string on the bottom. Okay, so G, B, A, C, B, D, C, E, D, F sharp, E G, F sharp A, and G B. So it sounds like this. Now, notice when there's a gap in between two notes on the strings, on the strings. And notice when there isn't a gap on the strings. The pattern then goes, so let's take a look at it again. Notice that in between this note and that note, not even looking at the notes or the intervals between the notes, just like by
the fingers.
Just by the fingers. There is no gap between these two fingers right here. I'm playing 2nd fret and 3rd fret. There's no gap of frets, whereas this has a gap in between. One gap in between. This next one has another gap in between. I can put my finger there. Okay? And then no gap again, then another gap, then gap, no gap. So that is the pattern that I noticed when I was when I was starting out and just playing. That right here, the pattern will go no gap, 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 no gap, no gap, 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 no gap. So we can just say it as N, excuse me, N G G N N G G N, N G G N N G G N. So if we look at that, we have N G G N N G G N, and this works. Let's try it out on our
Wait.
Oh.
So this is
on the E and A strings.
Yeah. So this is the G scale.
The G scale.
So you're playing, if you're playing in the key of G,
yeah,
you can use any of those combinations of notes as harmonies.
As harmonies, yes. So if you just practice, if you practice that, let's play G. Aaron's gonna play G. And I'll play it. Now, say if we were playing in F. So how would I know what notes to play in F? So if I were to play in F, remember my first one is no gap? Means that will be my first note. And already I figured out the harmony to that F without even thinking about it'll be F, then G, then A, then that's the note. No, I just played this and I played no gap. Okay? And I'll play F now for me. If I were to follow this this pattern, it goes no gap, 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 no gap, no gap, 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 no gap. So and how did I do that so fast? It's the same pattern every single time. Let me tell you, it's
on the E and A strings.
The E and A strings, it is the same thing every time. Play me an A. So here's my A note. No gap. Let's do something crazy. F sharp. Give me an F sharp. So here's my F sharp note. No gap. Another, give me something crazy, like anything. And that's pretty much works with anything that you want to do on the E and A strings, and that's what kind of makes it my favorite. Now, does that same thing work with the C and E strings? Yes, it does. Let's take a look at that. Using the E and C strings, have the melody line on the C string, and the gap pattern is exactly the same. No gap, 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 no gap, no gap, 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 no gap. All right, so it's going to be a little bit different because when we do our tuning, remember on Ukulele 101 we did tuning with our ukulele. E and A is five frets, but then C and E are 4 frets. You play C on the 4th fret to tune. That means it's 1 fret behind. So when we now have our no gap, it is seriously no gap because you're playing it in the same fret. So these two, same fret, and then gap. So this will now become my gap, and this is my no gap. So no gap, 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 no gap, no gap, 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 no gap. And this is my C note, and the harmony to that, no gap.
So the no gap this time is right in line with
right in line with the melody line. So play me a let's say D. So let's start from that. So it's the no gap, right? So D. So no gap, 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 no gap, no gap, gap. So one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. How did I get that so fast? Same thing with the same pattern. So when I ran into songs like Brown Eyed Girl, for example, you know,
there's like a lot of Brown Eyed Girl comments in the chat.
Yeah, you guys are kind of seeing this now. So when I played a song like Brown Eyed Girl, the Kyle Creator Boys did a and you guys know how huge fan I am of the Kyle Creator Boys. When I was trying to figure out that song, you know, I got. So with that, that's that no gap. Because remember F? So I'm in the key of F. So that, F, the no gap. And then if I'm gonna move up, of course I'm gonna add the gap in there. That's part of my pattern. Another gap, and no gap. So, and then up here. And knowing that gap, no gap pattern is gonna help me from playing notes like this. You know, it's not gonna be that because I know that there's a gap for the next note. And once you've played this enough, you're gonna see the roadmap of what notes you can and should not land in. Okay, does that make sense?
I think earlier, like Aaron was like trying to make the point that it's important to know what like chord or what key you're playing in,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And that's why the notes matter together.
Mm-hmm.
But like to show that, can you like play the wrong? Can you play the wrong harmonies in front of the?
Okay. So play the F, for example. So F. I'm not gonna be using the A like harmonies, so. It just doesn't sound good. So it has to be in the key, and once you know what key that is, then you'll know to plug in the formula and the patterns, that no gap, 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 no gap, no gap, 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 no gap.
Yeah. So start from the note that the key is.
Yes, start from the note that the key is, then plug in the pattern. There is one that is going to be a little bit different, and that is on the A and C strings. So the A and C strings, I'm going to use this chord shape of my C here. Because what it is you're actually playing the same thirds harmony, this same note, but instead of playing it high, here's the cool part, you're playing it an octave lower. So this is a harmony, C and A, that we like to use a lot on the ukulele. So you know, you're gonna hear a lot of Hawaiian songs go. So these are used a lot in Hawaiian. So the C and A harmony is going to be a little bit different. So just like I said, it's kind of like the same thing with the thirds, but we're playing it an octave lower. So this is for all you little bit more advanced students here. The gap pattern then is different. So the gap is here. Sorry, this is there's a gap. So there is a difference, and then the no gap is just like the C and E string where it's played in the same line. So it goes, there's a gap, no gap, no gap, 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 no gap, no gap, gap. Once again, no gap, gap, no gap, no gap, 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 no gap, no gap, gap. And let's do that on our A so it doesn't go all the way up. So A note, and this time your what makes it a little bit different is that your melody line is on the A string and using your C string to harmonize it. So it's the reverse of what we did, and that's why the gap pattern is going to be different. So gap, no gap, no gap, 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 no gap, no gap, gap. So if you practice this gap, no gap, kind of patterns, the more you do it, the more you'll see which notes are available to you and which notes you can use. And just like when you play the scale over and over again, you're not gonna hunt the scale down. You're just gonna know that it's right there, or that note is right there. So with the more you play scales and the more you practice your scale harmony, it's going to be a lot easier for you to identify which notes are going to be harmonized. So if I have a simple melody line of, so I'm gonna do, why? Because here I have this that's already working for me, because no gap, gap, gap. So and it's just off of that pattern. And that's in the key of C. You can play it in any key that you want. Okay? Any questions?
Yeah. So that just like, yeah, and then it's kind of like movable chords, right?
Yes.
Like you just take the pattern and then you move it to the position that you want to play it in.
Yeah.
So and then like also the pattern, like it doesn't only go for that amount of length, right? It repeats itself.
Yeah.
Too. So you can keep going either like farther down the fretboard, or you can go like closer down or closer to the headstock, I guess.
Oh, so this is for like major scales, right?
Yes, major scales.
Okay, so because there was a question in the chat about
minor.
Yeah, or just like other scales like blues scales and stuff.
Blues scales, yeah, it's going to be a lot different. So that's going to be in Ukulele 103.
But like the idea of using thirds, does that still? Or thirds or fifths?
Yeah.
Does that still apply?
On a minor scale, for let's take a minor scale for example. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
If you number the notes in the minor scale.
Right. So if I were to play C, I'm not gonna be playing an E because the E is flat in a minor scale. Okay. So if I were to play C and E flat, or here, that'll be a harmony instead of here.
Yeah. So you would for this you would kind of just write out the minor scale or whatever scale that you're doing.
So it works the same way in minor scales.
Yeah.
Let's
but then just the no gap and gap pattern would be different.
Would be different. Yeah. Actually, it not really. It just starts in a different
shifted over. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you who are music theory buffs, if you guys know the related or relative minor, relative major, it's the same thing. If you move that to the third, because it's like a step and a half. So it's like the third one. So I'll show you. There we go. So
we said we weren't gonna do music theory, but like
But I mean, if that's what they ask for, then here we go. So C, D, E flat. I'm off with my G, F, G, A flat, I believe. Yeah, A flat, B flat. Let's see. Writing it out is kind of weird. So C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C is our C minor scale. So if we were to play C, so 1, 2, 3. So if let's say we did C, D, E flat, D. So C, D, E flat, D is our melody line. So from here, 1, 2, 3, it'll be E flat, F, G, E flat, F, E flat.
Try You can write it out, but afterwards, sure.
Oh yeah,
word
yeah.
up a little bit.
E flat, F, G, F. Yes, yeah. So there it is. If I were to play it on my ukulele, start up here. So C and D, C and E flat, and here's my E flat. Then D and F, and then E flat and G. Then I have D and F. So. And what it is, if you're using relative major, so the relative major of C minor, sorry, is an E flat. So if we were to do E flat, and if you use that no gap, 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 no gap, no gap, 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 no gap, it'll line up with your C minor scale. So that's a little bit advanced, but if you take the relative minor, relative major, you'll get that.
It kind of makes sense that that is like the minor, like the harmonies for the minor, because like when you play it, it does kind of sound moodier, right? Like then the major.
So it'll just start and end in a different place, but it's the same pattern.
Yeah. So technically, if you were playing in the key of A minor, you could use the C. C scale, the C major, scale with the harmonies, and then
that's like a bonus for like.
Yeah. So here's the A minor.
Oh yeah, let's do that then.
So play A minor. I can do. So it works in in the relative minor, but if we wanted to, we should start with
the A. But A. you could just move up and down using that.
So.
Okay.
So like that's how it works. Using the same, because I did.
Yeah. So for using in the key of A minor, using the harmonies that would be in the C scale,
relative major,
because they're relative to each other.
Relatives, just like the chord families. Everyone's family, everyone's related. We're all relatives. Okay. So those are your patterns and scales and how we got those. So I explained to you folks why and how. So how I got to those, I got to those patterns, how I even started creating those patterns, and that's why I went with the showing you where it is on the scale and how we get those notes. Because if I were just to explain to you no gap, gap, no gap, you wouldn't know how I got there. Okay, so by going back and doing this part right here, like knowing the notes and breaking it down, it's a lot easier for you guys to kind of understand where I came from and how I got those notes. Okay, now, of course, as per usual, week 5, we have homework for you folks. Harmony exercises A, B, and C. And you can download these over on UU+. Printable tabs and example videos are available on UU+. So you can print out these tabs, and I have videos of myself playing them. You can play along with me, or or just do it on your own if you want. The first one sounds like this. This is exercise A for those of you who are interested. It goes like this. Just repeats. The second one sounds like this. And then the last one sounds like this. So if you guys want to learn how to do those exercises, head on down to UU+, print out these tabs and watch the example videos. Okay? Any last minute questions before I move on to the last thing that I want to talk about here?
Yeah, Christine said, so I haven't memorized the fretboard totally.
Yes.
Does that matter a lot when doing this? Would it make more sense if I did that first?
It does, but you don't have to, and that's the thing. You don't have to. If you just keep practicing the no gap pattern that I just showed you folks, it should be okay because you can just kind of see it. Back, I'm gonna have to make a confession. Back when I was doing this, or when I was learning how to play the ukulele, I didn't know all the notes on all my strings and frets either. I just kind of knew it as patterns. You know, if you were to ask me to play an E flat scale, I'm like, okay. If you ask me what those notes were, I'm like, oh, it's
you gotta figure it
out. Then no, that's an F, that's a G, it's an A flat. You know, then I wouldn't just know it off the bat, but I can play it because I know the I know the pattern. So same thing with this. If you can play the patterns over and over, you'll kind of see it and see it as a pattern instead of knowing which notes it is. It is beneficial if you learn which notes are on your fretboard, but it's not necessary.
And you can always look at your fretboard diagram.
Yeah,
if you need
here.
Need some.
So you can always
reference.
look at this.
Yeah.
So download these over you. Ukulele Underground. Are these free for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you don't have a UU Plus subscription, just email us and we can send them to you. So
okay, there it is. So for those of you who are watching this live, you don't have to be a UU Plus subscriber in order to get these at least this one anyway. Or do you want are we given the exercises as well? Or just
to watch the videos you have to log in.
I see. Okay, so there you have it. If you guys want these exercises, email us and we'll email them over to you. And for those of you UU Plus subscribers, you can watch the example videos and play along with me. Okay? I have one more thing that I want to talk about because next week is a 5-week review. 5-week review. So what we're going to be working on the halfway mark, we're going to be working on those goals to finish up the 5 weeks. So our goals for next week, I'm going to show you folks how to compose a simple song with picking. All right, and that's going to be our 5-week. Think of it as your like midterm exam almost. Okay, is to compose a simple song with picking. First, we're gonna decide on what key we want the song to be in. Next, we're gonna figure out the chord family of that key. Come up with a 4-chord progression based on that key. Then we're gonna create a melody line using the scale and the chord progression. Then we're gonna enhance the melody using harmony. So everything that we've learned in the past 5 weeks leads up to this. We're gonna compose our first ever simple song, and next week I'm gonna compose a song with you folks step by step, so that after next week lesson you should know the steps to do or to take in order to create yourself a simple song with picking. So it's gonna be a songwriting workshop next week. It's a halfway mark, so it's not the official week 6, but it's going to be a review where we take everything that we've learned and we're going to use them and create a song. Okay, so that's and I wanted it to kind of be like this, where we create a simple song. After the next 5 weeks after that, week 6 through 10, we're gonna be able to create a complex song, because I'm 6 through 10 I'm gonna be showing you guys how to do some advanced techniques like tremolo, bends, so on and so forth. So we're gonna be adding all these cool little elements to our songs. Okay, any questions on that?
There isn't a question on that next week, but Christine, the same person who said that they haven't memorized the fretboard totally, they said that they wanted like an easy way out of like memorizing it, and the patterns are easy.
Yeah,
but
that's
then,
the easy way out.
But then also like memorizing the fretboard isn't as bad as you think it is, and you don't have to memorize like every. I think people think I have to memorize every single note and where it is, and that's like daunting. But if you break it down, like which we did in Mastering Your Fretboard, right? So like, totally do that, and that should help anybody who's like.
We got courses on UU Plus to help you memorize
all those things. Yeah, so Mastering Your Fretboard and I think just exercises, the exercise that we have, or practice sessions. I think practice sessions will kind of help you, get those scales and get the get the keys and the and getting being able to master all those things. So we have those 2 courses to help you folks out.
We also have like music theory, like too. If you, because like we tried to make this one music theory light.
as little music theory as possible. Yeah, because we could have been talking about, like I said, scale degrees, semitones and tones, so on and so forth. It's just a little bit too much. So this is believe it or not, this is the easy way out. Yeah. So just doing it, with anything, it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of doing over and over again. If I were, if I were learning how to speak Hawaiian, for example, I'm gonna learn these things, but it's not like I'm just gonna know them automatically. Of course, I have to, practice speaking Hawaiian in order for me to become fluent.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just like muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
And like once you get that, it's like, oh yeah, this is I think, or people like once you get that, it's like oh, why did I find it hard in the first place?
Yeah, it then starts to become just patterns, and that's how I've learned through just patterns. And I think week number 6, we're going to be doing some movable chords and inversions, so even more patterns we're going to be taking a look at. All right, so if there's nothing else, we will see you folks next week for our halfway mark. So let's write a song next week here on Ukulele Underground University, Ukulele 102. All right, so on behalf of the rest of these gentlemen, my name is Aldrin Guerrero. That's Aaron Nakamura, Kahai Fergan. We'll see you next time. Aloha, and stick around for one-on-one coaching here on UU+. Thank you so much. Aloha.